We are going to try to get through this so everybody has a clear understanding of what has been asked by Senator Johnson. Peggy was fortunate enough to make personal contact with him, and he has asked for stories. He does want to do these hearings. But what you have to understand is this is the preliminary stage. In order to be able to justify getting the hearings, we have to have witnesses. We have to have the stories. We have to have everything he needs to be able to request the hearings. So the hearings have not been scheduled yet. It's vitally important that we get as many of these stories as we possibly can so that we have the evidence to back up that the investigation is warranted. If anyone has any questions, again, I'm not sure how to see where your hands are raised. I think you can unmute yourself. I'm fairly new to all of this. So if there's anything I don't cover that you need more information on, just hop in. But this will be a very narrow scope meeting. We're only discussing the stories and what's required to meet his criteria. We have gotten some information from him directly. The post I originally put out, and many of you have responded to, was what was concluded based on the feedback he had been giving regarding some of the initial stories. So I will share my screen and let you see. This is the post that I'm referring to specifically. And again, when I put this out, it was based on feedback that he had given Peggy and I personally. So it was kind of an assumption, I guess, based on our part. However, when we were missing the mark a little bit on some of the stories, and if you've gotten feedback on your story, we've provided that to you. But no, wrong one. Here we go. This was from Senator Johnson directly. And what he says is he wants a brief description of the witness, who you are, your relationship to the patient, something about the patient so that we understand who they were and how they got to the hospital, and the progression of the illness so that he can see the pattern. 600 words is not a lot. We all know that. And he makes a comment here, and I will tell you that using AI in any way you can to help rewrite and shorten those statements is very, very helpful. I had 4 pages that I had to condense to 1, and AI ChatGPT was, just amazing to be able to do that. So it's very, very helpful. But again, double check, reread, make sure that the information is accurate that you've put in there, or that ChatGPT has produced. Make sure that the information that's there is what you want to be addressed. What I found and what I realized writing my testimony was that there were things that were very, very important to me to have included. But when I reread what ChatGPT had produced, I came to understand that it wasn't really, even though it was important to me, it wasn't really helpful for investigation. What they need to see is something kind of akin to a witness statement, like if you were testifying in a court of law. They can't have information that you don't have firsthand knowledge of, because that would be considered hearsay. It's not admissible for an investigation. And, we all know about several of the commonalities and how cruel the doctors in the hospitals and the staff were. But understand that being a not nice person isn't necessarily a crime. We have to try to focus these on something that the law can do something about and make sure that make sure I'm not missing anybody in the room. So we just want to make sure that we're using factual information, that it's important to the investigation, and that it meets the criteria he has of a one-page PDF. Some people have tried to do it as if they were filling out a form, and that's fine if you want your story to just be placed on the record, to be recorded. But if you intend to be considered for testifying, those statements, he specifically said, should be an opening statement to the committee members. What would you say if you were standing or sitting right there in front of the committee testifying to what happened to your loved one? So if anybody has any questions about that so far, please let me know. I don't think I have anybody intentionally muted, but if I do, just come up on screen and let me know that you have a question and you would like more information, and I'm happy to do that. Again, he does not have these scheduled yet. He has got to have the witnesses and the information so that he can produce the justification. He's spending taxpayer dollars. And as much as we all want it to be heard and we all want it out right now, this is going to be a process. He has been very clear that what we were doing in the beginning when we were sending him over these letters every time. Elliot? Sure, Elliot. Dean, I'll get to you in just a minute.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Great. Did you want to finish what you were saying before?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So just a quick question. I was kept out of the hospital for the first 10 days, and no matter how many times I've tried, I haven't gotten an actual person to give me an accurate reading of his medical records. But I still want to participate in this. What do you suggest?
My suggestion would be, if you do not have the medical records, that you document.
I have the records,
You do.
but I am not a medical person.
Right. And that's been a tough hill for a lot of us to climb.
Yeah.
Trying to decipher all of the things that happened. I would suggest that if there are time periods that you knew something was occurring that didn't seem right or feel right, it's very easy to look at the medication administration records and just Google what is the standard dosing, or what is the, on the doctor's order. Did it fall underneath the doctor's guidelines when he placed the order?
Right.
So those are things that you can do fairly easily yourself, to, kind of highlight specific instances. But my suggestion would be, until you have more definitive information about what occurred in the records, that you record your story. You use your story to record for testimony, or you can give it a little time. He has this, one of the things, what I was saying was, he has told us this is going to take about 2 months before he's ready for these testimonies. So it's not going to be next week that we turn these stories in. We were sending him stories as we got them. And he said, look, I am so busy. I can't do these, like this. Please hold on to them. So what I've done is I'm I'm gathering the stories, and that's why it's very important if you submit your story, you submit it to that email at
Right.
lesliethompson0831@gmail, because I'm actually sorting those stories, whether you choose to testify or you want to be considered for testimony, or whether you just simply want your story documented for the record. And then if there are doctors or nurses that wish to testify, that in that subject line they're specifying that they're a doctor or that they're a nurse, and that they have special criteria. Now, he has been speaking to individuals about doing these hearings already. He's already got an attorney that he is working with that was trying to get patients certain treatments in the hospital, and the ones he was able to get treated, the cases he won, they survived, and the cases that he lost, they passed. So he's got that information. He has been speaking with Pierre Corey about testifying. He did specifically request that we could perhaps, try to gather as many medical professionals as possible. But they will be separate from the witness testimonies. He's given us 3 to 6 witnesses that he would like to have testify as victims or victims' families. So it's not a lot. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, that's not a lot. So far, I have 18 that have requested to be considered for testifying. So we don't have a lot of people to choose from. If you want to testify, you will be submitted as a separate group. And then the record would be submitted as a separate group. And then the doctors and nurses would be considered, doctors would be a separate group and nurses would be a separate group. So there's still, we're getting a tremendous amount of testimonies for the record, which I am thankful, very, very thankful for, because we would love for him to stand up there and walk into someone's office and say, we need an investigation. I have 2,000 stories here that need to be heard and need to be addressed, or 10,000 stories. We know how many people there were, but we've got to get them to come forward and tell their story. So I'm still letting folks in. So some folks may be asking questions that have already been answered, but that's okay. So for right now, you may want to hold off and see if you can get a little more information about your medical records before you submit. You've got time. Again, he said, about 2 months. So that may be something you want to consider doing.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Jane, I think you had tried to get my attention. Can you unmute now? Jane, were you still trying to ask a question? No? Okay. Did anybody else have any questions? Looks like we've got some. Oh, yeah, Gerard, excuse me, I apologize. Okay, you should be able to unmute now. There you go.
Okay. Thanks for allowing us the opportunity to spend some time with you. Has Senator Johnson said anything about what the threshold is for testimony in order to have an investigation?
He's requested at least 200 stories. Again, he said the more the better.
Right.
I think 200 would be sufficient to justify that something had happened, but he hasn't given us a specific number, other than that 200, limit.
Okay. But if he had, say, 10,000 testimonies, that would just
Oh yeah.
provide more depth to evidence, and that would just be obviously best. My second question is, it sounds like because of the nature of hearings, and you can't have, just dozens and dozens of people testifying. There would be testimony available. Obviously, for us, we would have these testimonies provided, and then for the clinicians, the doctors, um, I'm thinking of like all the doctors and scientists and virologists that signed the Barrington Declaration. You got Sasha Latipova and Karen Kingston, these pharmaceutical industry folks that did research and development that were in all that stuff. I've been watching Senator Johnson, and thank God for him and Rand Paul. So just wanted to find out if you'd heard any more about what other testimonies he's going to be able to utilize if those kind of individuals have volunteered testimony.
Well, I do know he's been in touch over the years with Sasha Latipova and several of the other individuals that have provided information. Early on, I think Pierre Corey testified, I think it was December of 2020, in a roundtable hearing that he did with Sasha Latipova and several others. It wasn't an official congressional hearing because they wouldn't allow him to do it as official congressional hearing,
Right.
which is why he needs the witness testimonies. He has been very clear that every single testimony that he receives will be entered into the record, which will be maintained in the National Archives, which means your loved one's story and your voice speaking for your loved one will be immortalized. And I think that is huge because there will be no deniability that this happened, even if they choose to overlook it. And there is no guarantee that there will be any meaningful accountability that comes from this. He's one man. But I think it's vitally important that the stories get documented, because someday when they try to do this again, it's going to be a matter of, look, we know what went wrong last time. We can't do this again. So, did you have anything else, sir?
Last question. For a household, is there a limit for the testimonies?
No, every person in the household, because every person in the household is going to have their own perspective and their own experience.
Copy that. Okay. Thank you again. Appreciate you.
Yes, absolutely. Jane, did you say I'm trying to unmute you? I've asked you to unmute. I think you need to select your microphone. There you go. There you go.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for doing this, Leslie. A couple of questions I had. It has to be so succinct. It's like we'll barely. I know someone had a question about medical terminology and going through records. I mean, we barely have enough to say who we are, who they were, and probably one or two sentences. So I don't know if that should stop anyone. But the other thing is, one question I wanted to know: are we not to mention specifics? For example, it's happened in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, at XYZ Hospital. Are we
No, as long as it is factual, you are welcome to put the information. And in fact, he wants testimonies from all over the country. He doesn't want them all from one state or one hospital. He wants them for every state in the country because it will establish a greater pattern.
Okay, one other thing I wanted to ask is why now? Because it's been this many years, and of course we're all anxious. I'm happy they're doing anything whenever they do it, but is there some sort of I'm always looking for optimism on it. Is there some reason why we think that we might get justice now?
Well, I think it's all in God's timing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was by the grace of God that Peggy was able to make contact with him. It was, she's been trying to reach out for 2 years, like many of us have. And he just happened to answer the phone that day. And he said he's been wanting to do this. The problem is, and what we've found is that information gets passed around and it sometimes gets misinterpreted. That's why I wanted to have this meeting, so that everyone had a very, very clear understanding of what was being asked and what was necessary. it's required to have those in a PDF format. And I know that's difficult for some people, but anytime you can print, instead of printing to a printer, you can print to PDF and it will save your form as a PDF. Even if you don't have a printer, you can still print it as a PDF. Yes, survivors should absolutely submit their testimonies. You, as a survivor, do not have to have necessarily as much background evidence in order to be considered to testify. And the reason I say that is because your firsthand knowledge is not hearsay. Your firsthand knowledge is testimony. So Sharon, on your point, I didn't mean to distract Jane. I don't know why right now. I mean, he's been very not. He doesn't want people to get their hopes up too much. He doesn't want to let people down. He's finally been able to get the information regarding the vaccine injuries. And, the last time Peggy talked to him, it was specifically, don't send these to my office because they're going through 11 million pages of HHS documents trying to get, some sense made out of what happened with the vaccines. But I think part of it, and Peggy and I have talked about this many, many times. Mary, I see your hand. I'll be with you in just a moment. So it's a matter of he does not have the time or the capability to do the preliminary legwork and try to coordinate all of the stories and sort them and all of that kind of stuff and figure out who wants to testify, who just wants the record. So he's kind of delegated it to us. And I'm not anybody special. I assure you. I'm nobody important other than I have a story as well. And every single story deserves to be heard. No one will be, filtered out regardless of who they're associated with or who they're affiliated with. I know there's been some concern there. Peggy and I are not part of a group. We are just two widows. So it's I don't know. I honestly, I can't accurately tell you why now.
The reason why I asked was I just see a lot happening online. It seems like something's stirring, and I don't know. It seems like there's something happening, and so I'm always looking for optimism in it because we certainly have enough, that nothing's happening, or of course the ultimate horrible thing that happened to all of us. But I just wondered if something is up that you're aware of or anyone is, because it's like there's a lot of stirrings going on. I have not seen this much activity on things exactly on us, our situations.
Exactly. And I will tell you, it seems that these stories are being less and less censored. That they're able to move past the veil of, whatever the censorship scope was. They're getting out there. And with all of the vaccine injuries, yeah, Peggy, I'll have you up in just a second. I'm having a hard time keeping up with the chat. So, and trying to, watch for hands. Donna, I'll have you in just a moment. So, I think the awareness is becoming more prevalent. People are starting to recognize that the entire COVID narrative was less than true. In many cases, an outright lie, but at very least less than true. And once you start sowing those seeds of doubt, people become much more amenable to hearing different perspectives and stories. And I think that the environment is very right for that, because people are seeing how badly our government has mistreated all of us for so long, and we see all of the egregious things that are being done, and they're ready to say no more. So I super excited that he's given us this opportunity. And if it doesn't go anywhere, then, you know, very least we can say we made the effort, right? And that
Yeah.
we've documented it, and they can't say they didn't know about it.
Thank you so much for everything you're doing, Leslie. I'll let you jump on to the others I see lining up here.
Yeah, we got a couple other people, so thank you, Jane. Donna, and then Peggy. Peggy D, is it urgent about something that I'll give it to you. And I'm sorry, Donna, I'll be right with you right after Peggy, if I can find her on the screen. Here we go. There you go.
Okay, Miss Leslie, I would just like to chime in. Why now? Because I feel like God opened that door. When Ron Johnson answered the phone, I had gotten discouraged, was ready to give up. I'm old, I'm tired, I got health problems. And I feel like God told me to call Ron Johnson. I have 3 different numbers, and I had been trying to get him on this one for almost 3 years. I called it and he answered on the 3rd ring. And he said, Ron Johnson, can I help you? I stuttered and he said, are you vaccine injured? Because he's doing the vaccine injures. And I said, no, sir. But would you ever consider speaking for the hospital protocols? He asked my story. And when I told him, he said, Peggy, you do not have to convince me that hospitals have become killing fields. He said, we just got all this information proven the COVID vaccines, how they lied and hid things. He said, and if that is hard enough and we have all this evidence, he said, we are going to turn the world upside down when we bring out hospitals were killing people. He said, nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to believe it, but I've heard enough. He said, but I can't do this on my own. Will you be a witness? Can you get me testimonies? I said, sure. And he didn't give us a template or any idea. So Leslie sent one in, a couple of us did. And he shot back and he said, Peggy, you're driving me crazy. That is not what I want. Here's a template. So what he sent is what he wants. Very short, very sweet. And he said, if you can get me at least 200 testimonies or witnesses, I can ask for a hearing, but we have one shot at this and one shot only. And we've got to get it right. We've got to prove how bad this was, how far and wide it was. Otherwise, they're going to say, oh, it was a few bad doctors, a few bad hospitals, they made a mistake. He said, we have to prove to them that it was not a mistake, that this was planned. So he said, give me at least 2 months and then shoot me over what you got. So this is where we're at, and we need you guys. Like he said, he does not have time for this. His staff does not have time for this. Getting people together, he said, if you're a widow and you know a bunch of widows, widowers, people that this happened to, can you reach out? So this is where we're at. And we thank you guys for just being here and for wanting to move this forward, because my husband used to always say, you can't win the lottery if you don't play it.
Exactly. Thank you, Peggy.
Okay, back to you.
Okay, Donna, you've had your hand up, so I'm going to go ahead and shoot. And then I see that there's a couple of messages. Other folks have some questions. Can you unmute now, Donna?
Hello?
Okay, I'm unmuted.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Leslie. God bless you. You know, when you were talking about, and the prior lady talking about God having a hand in this, I was ready to call Ron Johnson. I'll give you a little background of what I've already done. but I was ready to do it. And then one of my friends that's a fellow survivor of hospital protocol death for her dad, and it's for my husband. She sent me just today that you were doing this. And I said, oh my God, it's like him, my husband, and God sent you guys to me. So I wanted to ask you a couple of things. Does Ron want to have us like bullet point list what they did to him?
If you're submitting it for the record only, that will be fine. But it still needs to try to be at 600 words or about a page. If you are submitting it to be considered to testify, it needs to be in the form of a statement, like you would read it to them if you had the opportunity to be selected.
Okay.
Now, I don't know how many, and I would recommend anyone who wants to be considered to testify, go watch the Voices of the Vaccine Injured hearing that he did a couple of months ago. Maybe it was almost a year ago now, actually. You watch a couple of his hearings, you will see how people are given the opportunity to make a 5-minute statement, which is basically 1 page. 1 page takes approximately 5 minutes to read as a statement. So that's what he's looking for. If you were called, what would you say if given the opportunity to sit there and testify at the committee hearing?
Okay.
If it's just for the record, like I said, a bullet point is fine. If you just want to have it documented, what was done, that's not a problem. But for the
Can we do
testimony, it
both?
really needs to be something that you would literally read.
Okay, can we do both? Like, can we have, if we want more information put on what was done, do it for the record and also do a testifying statement?
Would recommend only doing one.
Okay.
Because anything that doesn't get selected to testify will still be submitted to the record.
Okay.
So that would be my recommendation. If you have evidence to support your testimony, then, make sure you make it clear that evidence is available upon request or something to that effect to support supporting documentation.
All right. Yeah. First, I tried the civil lawsuit approach, but the PrEP Act is for everybody blocks it, which is a criminal and an unconstitutional act because it violates the Constitution. But secondly, I ended up hearing from Vera's Law Group, Rachel Rodriguez. She's now running for governor of Florida, as you know. And they did criminal charge case. So I have, oh God, I can't remember how many. I was in South Carolina helping them to put together names, and I have quite a few testimonies. What they did was Rachel's group wrote up the legal brief using South Carolina law, telling why it's criminal charges to South Carolina's criminal charges. Mm-hmm. And then she attached our stories as the exhibits. Now, while I was in the hospital, I took notes. They even commented that I was doing it. I said, you bet I am. And then I have a really good memory. So I get home at night and I write down my conversations and the things that happened and so forth, what doctors said. So I have about 48 or 49 of the harms they did to him. It was absolutely barbaric and inhumane. And I have another whole 48 or 49 of what doctors and nurses said. So I've documented it. I have all.
Did we lose you? I think we lost Donna.
Here.
Oh, there you are.
Me? Okay, sorry. So I don't know if you got the part. I have all of his medical records from both hospitals, and I have all of the hospital billings. They're thousands of pages long. So obviously you're not going to send it. But if you can use this, and if this is acceptable to send to him off of this program by email, I can send you separately. I'm not tech savvy, so I have to just do emails or phone calls. I have all of these other people who participated in the lawsuit. Things are hopping all over the screen right now.
Sorry, somebody was asking for the email, so I'm going back to share the screen so they can see.
Yeah, I can see it right there. Yeah. down at the bottom. So do you want me to continue?
Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry. Somebody in the
Okay.
chat was asking a question, so I figured I'd just take care of that.
Sure. Appreciate it. So I have quite a few other people whose stories are in that exhibit. We're all in South Carolina. They told their stories. Mine is very comprehensive because I tried not to miss out on a thing of the horror, literally the horrors that the doctors.
Ron Johnson texted me just what he wanted on the opening statements and the testimonies. I screenshotted that and I sent it to you. It's on your Facebook page. It's on mine. It's actually on Dr. Margaret's. It's on Kimberly Overton's. He's only asking for these specifics. If you go writing a whole bunch of other things, it's not going to make it. It's going to be kicked out. He doesn't have time for every one of us to tell our complete stories. He wants
it
these.
still has to meet the criteria of a
It
single
has to meet
page.
the criteria.
Yeah.
You have to keep it to 600 to 700 words.
Uh,
And what he had asked for, let me pull it up because it's simple and it's on your thing too. He wants a brief description and a background of the witness, a brief description and background of the patient, chronological of progression of illness and treatment, only provide facts, no assumptions, no policy, no political commentary. Ideally, testimony will be no longer than 600 words. Thank you for putting that up. That's what he has asked for. When he first told me he wanted stories, I shot him over mine and Leslie's first, because Leslie and I have worked together for 6 years now in Oklahoma. And he shot it back and he said, that is not what I'm looking for. It's too long and it's not the details that I want. So this is what he wants. And then he wants to know, if you want to be a witness or have testimony, you have to back up anything you're going to say. That's when he will ask you for all the other evidence. But until then, he does not have time for us to shoot him over everybody's evidence. I have 4,000 pages of my husband's. He told me, he said, Peggy, I am going through 11 million pages of HHS documents where they lied and hid the COVID vaccines. He said, now, this is just a hearing, mind you. And if we don't get it right, it will never go anywheres. If he gets this right and we all follow the rules and send him exactly what he wants, if he gets it right, then he will ask for investigations. But we have to start at the bottom, and we can't all send everything we'd like to send, believe me. He gets on to me like I'm a child. He's like, Peggy, you are driving me nuts here. Don't send me anything that I'm not asking for. And I said, well, Leslie has volunteered to hold these. He said, if you'll put them in files until I ask for them and then shoot them over, he will go through all of them and he will contact us. He does not want us to contact him. Like he told me, I am a very busy man. He does not even answer me every time I text him a question. So no answer is an answer, correct?
yeah.
If I shoot him over a question and he doesn't answer it, I've done got my answer. But the other day I told him, I have arthritis, I can't text. Can we talk? He said, Peggy, I'm on a plane. The next morning he called me at 6:30 in the morning. We talked for an hour and a half. He said, Peggy, I don't have time to get these people together. I don't have time to compile these testimonies and statements. If you two will do this for me, I will ask for a hearing. So we're trying to keep this just to what he has asked for. And then if it goes to the next step, and if you're all believers in Jesus Christ, pray about it, because I do believe this is a door that opened. We've all been wanting to be heard. We've all been wanting to be recognized. He's a very busy man, but he's willing to do this because he knows, he believes, and he wants the truth out there. And as far as the Rachel Rodriguez thing, Leslie and I, we've done all that here. We had a petition. We had a probable cause. Leslie wrote a bill. We have been working very hard on this. And to get this far is just God's grace. And I'm very humbled that he said, yes, I will speak for you guys, but you've got to do the work for me. You got to get me the witnesses. They got to be credible, and they've got to follow this template. So I would appreciate it if everybody would just follow the template. All the other stuff, as far as Rachel Rodriguez, we did a large interim study here. Rachel Rodriguez actually was in on it. Our representative, J.J. Humphrey, wrote Leslie and I a probable cause on criminal. It's went to the AG. We've got a case number. But again, getting anybody to do anything, because like Ron Johnson said, Peggy, they did not want to believe that COVID vaccines injured people. And we have doctors, we have hidden documents that we've now got. He said, wait till we tell the world they were killing people at hospitals. We're going to turn the world upside down. Are you ready? Will you be a witness? Will you get me other witnesses? So this is what we're really hoping and praying for. And the ones that don't have that screenshot or the email, you're welcome to friend either Leslie or myself. And
Absolutely.
it's on our post.
Absolutely.
We're on
Anybody can
Facebook.
send me a friend request.
Friend us.
I-
And we will accept it. And then you can go to our post and you can share it. You can see it. He wants 200 witnesses. I'm praying for 2,000. Leslie and I even had a story on a newspaper article, a grassroots that went across the United States. We're out there. We're really pushing. Leslie is brilliant. I'm pushy. Together we work great, but we need you guys. We need your stories, but we need it in the template that he asked for. Yeah, we don't want to disappoint him. He is the first and only one that has volunteered to do this for us. So we need to step up and give him what he wants. Thank you, guys. Thank you for all your help. And I can't wait to meet you, because even if we don't get to testify, let's all go to Congress. Let's all be at that hearing. Let's sit in unity. Let them look up and see all of our faces. Let them see who we are. So God bless you. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you, Peg. Okay, I've got Lori. Oh, wait. My screen moved. Hang on. I lost Lori. There you are, Lori.
Okay,
This
can you
is
hear me?
Donna. I was getting the unmute from you, but this is Donna.
Yeah. Nope. My screen shifted as soon as I went to unmute.
Okay.
I got the wrong person. Thank you, Donna. Okay, Lori, you got it.
Can you hear me?
I certainly can.
All right, I'm going to try and see what that, I'll see if my video, there we go. I don't look very, but
I've had one of those days. I get it.
we've known each other for many years. I've been involved, and I did initially in 2022, so many endless hours of volunteering to my fight, because I did medical billing for 13 years. So in looking over the records, I was floored. And we tried in New Jersey, no attorney. I mean, I went everywhere. It was, they wouldn't take them on because we're a big pharma state. So anything, Patty, I always keep in touch with Patty. And she sent this to me, and I thought, okay, if we're going to write directly to Ron Johnson, I follow the things that go on. I want credible, I want data, I want I don't want the drama, I don't want to be giving my life away. It's that the more there's power in numbers and the more of us that group together, and no division. So I'm all in to testify. I will send you my story. It will be brief, very to the point, but I have plenty of evidence. So I appreciate you doing this, Leslie. So thank you.
Absolutely. And be prepared if you want to testify that it's not too dissimilar from a court of law. If you're going to make a statement, you have to be able to substantiate that statement with evidence. And that's why, we were pretty clear. We tried to be pretty clear that when you submit your statement, it's not about speculation. It's not general commentary. It's your firsthand account of your story, what you saw, witnessed firsthand, what you have evidence of. And I'm happy to share my story. He gave, the third attempt, he gave positive feedback. So I'm happy to share the story that I submitted. If you want to email me, you've got, my email address, and I'll be happy to send it out to you. As kind of a template to sort of follow. It is, like I said, I understand how hard it is to decipher what we think is important versus what is going to make an impact for them. And sorry, it's definitely a challenge, but I think it's one we can all meet. And if we get to the point where we've got at least 200, or we've got 500, or we've got 5,000 stories, it's undeniable. They certainly cannot walk away and say, well, it never happened. One or two people they can blow off. 10 people they can say, well, it was a bad time. They really didn't know what they were doing in the hospitals and that kind of stuff. But when you've got 1,000 people or 5,000 people, or and we all recognize that nobody was dying at home. They were all dying in the hospital. And, of course, then it's oh, well, only the sickest went to the hospital. And I'm like, no, they were admitting everyone as the minute they got a COVID positive test, whether they, were eligible for admittance or not. They would never have been admitted under normal circumstances. It was simply because they got that COVID positive test. They immediately got admitted and put on the protocol, especially if you answered no to the vaccinated question. So,
yeah. And I think it's important with the evidence. And I think even people that we know that over the last 4.5 years that I have met, it's like, just write it and email it. This is getting it to the attention of a senator that can, so we need to do this in unison, in big numbers, and it's just making it brief, not getting into all your background and all. So I know and I'm all for it. So I will be sharing, I file Kimberly, and I feel, this is a big deal. So thank you.
A lot of noise in the background. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of noise in the background, but, we try to stay focused. We try not to get distracted or deterred. And if it hadn't been for the personal communication with Senator Johnson and him specifically asking for this, and his feedback and willing to communicate with us about these things, it would have been a different story. We've all been let down by things we're supposed to. And like I said, there's no guarantees. There is no promises. We don't even have a promise that we're going to get a hearing if we can't get the statements to him to provide him the evidence. So it's going to take all of us working together to get this done. And if I didn't know personally from firsthand knowledge that these were going directly to him, not to his office staff to be set aside, to be filtered through, he is receiving these himself. He has read them, the ones that have been submitted himself, and he has provided feedback. And to me, that speaks volumes. That speaks to me that this is something he really does believe in. This is something he really is passionate about, and that he's willing to take the time to do this, but he can't do it alone. And I know we've all sent things to his staff and we've sent things to the offices. I don't know what happens to it. I don't. I don't have any personal insider knowledge. What I do know is everything we have submitted to him, it has gone to him directly, and he has read it directly, and he has responded directly. So I'm not going to make any, assumptions as to where, what he does with them from that point, other than, like I said, Peggy told you, he said, I can't do it like this. This is too much. This is too many. But that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. Because if he's saying it's too much, it's too many, that means that he recognizes that we are very passionate about this. It means that he recognizes this is something that is way past due and it needs to be addressed. And that this wasn't a one-off. There was no time when it was a single doctor in a single hospital making a single bad choice. And he's clearly recognized that. But there's so few in, the system doesn't protect the people anymore. The system protects itself. And so we just have to remind the system who they work for, I think. Donna, did you have another question? Unmute you there.
Yeah,
Yes.
I do. Okay. I just wanted to mention that I also, as I told you, had written down actual quotes from what the doctor said that admitted that they knew it was harming him. And when I was doing the with Veris, they were amazed because they killed my husband in 2024. And they said, 24? They said they're still doing the same thing
Yes.
as they did in 2021. So that was very beneficial and in a sad and evil way that they're still doing exactly the same thing, doing it I said, you're going into the 5th year and you're doing the same thing. And I have their quotes that are admitting that they knew that their protocols were still killing, but they would not change them.
And those direct quotes I would absolutely include.
Yes.
I did, as I said in my statement, I included when the doctor called me and I answered the phone and he said, "Is this Miss Batts?" I said, "Yes." He says, "Well, I hope you're vaccinated because your husband's going to go on a vent for a month. Then he's going to be in rehab for a year if he survives. And you need to be alive to take care of him if he survives." And, so those quotes they're powerful and they're passionate
Yeah.
and they speak to the mentality that was behind the people that were perpetrating all of this.
Oh, yeah.
So I think those quotes are definitely something that
Okay.
should be included. If, like I said, if you have documentation, if it's in the medical records, absolutely. It is a fact. It is something you can speak to that has evidence to support it. That's absolutely the kind of thing that you want to include.
Yeah, I've got it. I wrote them all down exactly what they said, and I'll remember them till the day I die. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Did anybody else have any questions? If you're trying to raise your hand, or if you can't raise your hand, or I'm just not seeing you because I have 2 pages of folks. I'm so glad we had so many come and participate tonight. Just put it in the chat real quick and I will get to you to raise your hand if you want to be unmuted. I'm doing the best I can, guys. I apologize. I'm not a pro here. No, nothing from anybody else. Jenny, I know you were kind of late. Did you have any questions, Jenny Golden? No. All right, folks. Well, we will certainly keep everybody updated. Please keep those statements coming. You've got my email now. I will put it in the chat for anyone that has not seen it. And this was recorded. It will be available from the beginning. So if you came in late or you missed anything, you'll have an opportunity to replay it and make any comments. You can always email me anytime. That's my email. And unless there's anything else, I appreciate you all. And I hope you have a very blessed evening. And I look forward to getting all of your statements. Thank you, guys.